The Sermon on the Mount is the most famous sermon in history. It has shaped leaders, it has founded civilizations, it has molded men and women from across the world and down through the ages. But what Jesus reveals in this sermon are not so much secrets for the successful. He is preaching blessing for the poor in spirit. The context for the sermon is Matthew chapter 4 from verse 22. Jesus went throughout Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness among the people. News about him spread all over Syria, and the people brought to him all who are ill with various diseases, those suffering severe pain, the demon-possessed, those having seizures, and the paralyzed, and he healed them. Large crowds from Galilee, the Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, and the region across the Jordan followed him. Here is the King proclaiming his kingdom. And when he speaks about his kingdom, it's not a manifesto pledge, as though he would like to be able to get this whole scheme off the ground. This is good news. It's the good news of the kingdom. Jesus says this is reality. There is a kingdom where all the sick, the suffering, the demonized, the disabled, the foreigners, everyone is welcome. It's not a kingdom you have to create or build. It's a kingdom you receive, because Jesus says, I am the King, and I've come, and my kingdom, it's not an ideal, it is a reality. Jesus is not trying to inspire human enthusiasm for a bold new political enterprise. The reign of Christ is a reality, not a social experiment in need of volunteers. So Jesus opens up the sermon like this in Matthew chapter 5 from verse 1. Now when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them, saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Here at the gateway to the Sermon on the Mount, the doors are flung wide open to all the poor in spirit. But as he flings open the gates wide to the poor in spirit, he is shutting the gates in the face of all the proud. Christ's kingdom is for strugglers. Anyone who thinks that they are equal to the challenge of heavenly living is disqualified from the outset. A friend of mine describes this verse as Jesus saying, Blessed are the spiritually rubbish. Are you spiritually rubbish? The kingdom is for you. The kingdom of heaven does not belong to the moral, the religious, the powerful, or the rich. It does not belong to those who are spiritually up to the job. It belongs to the spiritual no-hopers, the spiritual destitutes, the spiritual bankrupts. It is no accident that the Sermon on the Mount begins on this note. The greatest sermon ever preached is not a pep talk for spiritual go-getters. It is good news for the poor in spirit. At every point in this sermon, we are meant to confess our spiritual poverty and entrust ourselves wholly to the King. At the end of the day, only He can make good on this kingdom. He is the one who is spiritually bankrolling this kingdom. We are simply the spiritual bankrupts, the poor in spirit. We are not up to the kingdom of heaven. No, the kingdom of heaven comes down to us because the King has stooped. We must not try to raise ourselves from the gutter, or else we'll find that we've missed the meeting point. Jesus meets us where we are as we begin this sermon. And where are we? We are poor in spirit. Do you acknowledge that you are poor in spirit, spiritually rubbish? I am. Are you a spiritual no-hoper in desperate need of blessing? Then friend, the kingdom of heaven is for you.